It got warm fast out here. Usually that happens as soon as you get above the valley floor. Hello everyone and welcome. We are once again in Grand Teton National Park, and this morning we'll be summiting Teewinot. As always, I want to give a disclaimer. Climbing is inherently dangerous. Obviously, I don't know your skill level or experience. I can't make a risk assessment for you. But what I hope to do here is, one, to help you navigate, and two, to give you some video to make that risk assessment for yourself. Now, one of the best things about this peak is that it's just a beeline straight out of the trailhead at Lupine Meadows. It's 5 miles round trip, maybe even less, with I think more than 5,000 feet of vert, so that part's not easy. But yeah, definitely not to be taken lightly though. Last time I summited here was with a group from Colorado, and they all agreed that this is more difficult than any of the 14ers. I definitely wouldn't disagree. Sustained 4th class or possibly low 5th class, especially if you're not able to stay on the route. I'll be following a climber's trail up until around the Snowfield, which sits just to the north of the two pinnacles. That Snowfield will be there late into summer if it's not there all year round, so I do strongly recommend bringing ice axe and crampons. Nice place to fill up water, only 3/4 of a mile into the trail. And then we're beginning a long series of switchbacks. I think there's roughly 20 or close to 20, but I'm not going to count. Our first great views of Jenny Lake and then Jackson Lake behind it. And I'm only part of the way up the switchbacks. Above the switchbacks and still beelining up. And from where I'm standing, I have a good view of the route ahead. There are a couple of pinnacles called Idol and Worshipper. And then to the right of them, I can see some trails in the Snowfield. I think by there we'll already be above 11,000 feet. From where I'm standing now is still around 9,000. Getting steeper as we get near the pinnacles, but still easy to navigate. To the right of the pinnacles and onto the Snowfield. Thankfully, there's already a good set of steps kicked in. Yeah. I always have my axe where I can grab it easily, because this started out easy and now it's getting a little bit steep. It's late July already, but as I think I said before, I don't think this Snowfield ever melts away, at least most years. I actually remember it being bigger than this, so I got a little bit lucky. From the top of the Snowfield, another little climber's trail going up and slightly right will lead toward the big black rock band. I can't see it from where I'm at, but we have to traverse around that one way or the other. A little scramble, and I was able to bypass the black band on the right. I know it can be done on the left as well, and depending on the snow conditions, it might be easier to go that way. From above the black band, I have to traverse back to the left into the gully that leads us up to the summit block. I actually recommend bringing with you a good photo of the gully, because the route finding here is deceptively hard. Now that I'm in it, I'm recognizing a lot of things, but there was a minute where I was second guessing myself as well. Most of the best terrain here is on the right. Definitely more than a few 4th class moves. Once you're in the central gully, or more ideally just to the north of the central gully, you'll be looking up at the Crux section of the climb as you approach the hourglass area. And I say Crux section because there are multiple ways that you can do this. Next, let me preface this by saying that these photos were all taken from a distance, and the lines I'm drawing here are very rough approximations. And also, when you get up close, everything is going to look very different than what you see here. But the most direct route you can do is right up the center of the gully, and I believe this is one of the sections that usually gets labeled as a low class 5. And I did this variant on the descent, but I'll include the video of it here as well. But I also think that there's a slightly easier variation further to the right, although it does still include an exposed step around move. And once again, this line I'm drawing here is a very rough approximation of the route. Now take note here how the climbers descending in this photo are high up on the north side of the gully. I think because when you're coming down here with a bird's eye view of the terrain, it's a lot more obvious to stay on this route. In this clip, I had to traverse slightly to the right to gain access to some of the ledges that are just above. Now there is some exposure here too, stepping around this ledge. And this will lead us back into the gully above the Crux pitch, or rather the Crux pitch that's in the gully. It is possible as well to scramble on the ledges on the south side of the gully, but I've tried that before also, and I don't think it's any easier. If anything, I think it's more difficult. From this point onward, though I was very close to the summit, it did take a little bit of trial and error. First, I walked too far up toward the notch where I thought the summit block was, and thought this doesn't look right and this looks too difficult. So I backtracked a little bit, realized there's a climber's path going off to the right, and that the actual summit, which I couldn't see at the time, was behind, further back and further to the right than where I was aiming. So from there, it was still a little more trial and error, but there's a climber's path that leads you almost all the way to the summit. And if it's anything that looks like it's crazy difficult, you're probably in the wrong place. And I've done this summit before, and still it's a little bit difficult to navigate. Some of the best views around and some great weather here, even though it took longer than I would have expected to get here. Looks like weather should be great all day. Although this route is officially labeled as class 4, I know there's a lot of debate over whether it should be class 4 or low class 5. Here's my opinion, maybe controversial, so let me know if you disagree, but I think it can be kept at class 4 if and only if you're absolutely perfect with the route finding. But having said that, it's very hard to do in spite of it being just one central gully that you're ascending toward the summit. It's quite difficult to find that perfect route. So in most cases, you're probably going to be faced with low class 5 moves here. So do be prepared for that if you attempt this route. To give some more context to the difficulty, I had climbed Capitol Peak just a few days before doing this. And in spite of Capitol being usually considered the hardest of the 14ers in Colorado, this, in terms of difficulty, was head and shoulders above that. In terms of difficulty, this is much closer to Owen Spalding than it is to most class 4 routes. And I actually think that this is a good route to prepare for Owen Spalding, because if you're very comfortable with this, then you probably would be okay up on OS. I'm back above the Black Cliff Band, but this time I decided to stay to the south, to my right, and have a look at the path on this side. It's actually a little bit less direct route over here. I'm snaking back and forth on the hillside, but nothing difficult so far. The path of least resistance brought me right back to the little snowfield right underneath the cliff bands. Though I could have scrambled down some ledges further to my right, further to the south. This way was pretty easy. Back at the top of the snowfield. I will put my crampons on for the descent. I know at least a few people have died on this snowfield, and I don't say that to scare anyone. I just say it to encourage you to bring the right equipment. And coming down the snowfield, just went backwards, put my butt out in the air, and plugged the blade of my axe into the ice. The ice axe was getting a real good bite, so as long as you're prepared, there's nothing much to worry about. Okay, after the snowfield, it's just a short walk down a steep trail. Dangerous parts behind us. Anyway, that was Teewinot, East Face. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful for planning your own trip. As always, I'd love your feedback. What did you like? What can I do differently? And what other mountains or routes would you like to see? Okay, bye.